The cashier flips price tags by hand, no barcode beeps yet, and your jaw hits the linoleum. A gallon of milk, 83 cents, a dozen eggs, about 60, a fresh loaf of bread, 12 cents. Toss in coffee, sugar, and bacon, and you're still walking out for pocket change. The craziest part? No sale, no coupon. This is just Tuesday. Now picture Main Street in the post-war boom. Chrome-trimmed cars outside a brand-new self-service supermarket, fluorescent lights humming, aisles stacked higher than you've ever seen. Moms steering gleaming steel carts, kids begging for cereal with a cartoon spaceman, dads comparing coffee tins like they're picking stocks. Prices are so low you start to think the labels are missing a digit. They aren't. And just around the corner, a tiny burger stand is slinging 15-cent cheeseburgers that will bulldoze the way America eats. But here's the twist. Those small numbers only make sense when you know what people earned, what rent cost, and why a 98-cent TV dinner felt like magic. We're cracking open a real 1950s grocery basket, translating it into today's dollars, and exposing the little-known forces that kept totals tiny. Stick around, because the next price tag we pull is going to feel impossible. Payday lands in a crisp paper envelope. You break the seal, count the bills, and see your entire year right there in miniature. A typical family brings in about $3,300 before taxes. That's roughly a couple $100 a month to make every part of life work. Translate it to today, and each $1950 acts more like a low double-digit bill now. Suddenly, those tiny price tags aren't just quaint, they're necessary. Watch the budget get sliced, rent first. In many towns, a modest apartment swallows around $40-something a month. If you're saving for a small house, the dream of the decade, you're eyeing sticker prices in the $7,000 range and wondering if the bank manager likes your tie. Utilities are lean but not invisible. Coal or oil for heat in winter. Electricity humming for that new refrigerator. A phone line if you can swing it. Transportation, gas feels cheap. Pocket change per gallon. But your car payment, insurance, and maintenance nibble away. Clothes are durable, shoes get resold, and big household buys, like a washing machine, are planned like military operations. Entertainment is nickel and dime. A movie with buttered popcorn, a Sunday drive, a vinyl record you'll spin until the grooves give up. Here's the key. Groceries must fit inside what's left after rent, heat, and wheels. That's why bread at 12 cents, milk in the 80s, and eggs around 60 cents a dozen matters so much. It's also why supermarkets exploding with choice feel like a miracle, especially when your paycheck has to stretch from payday to payday with no plastic safety net, no swipe, no buy now, pay later. If the envelope is empty, dinner is whatever's already in the pantry. And yet, optimism is everywhere. Overtime shifts, GI Bill-fueled skills, and a booming industrial machine make families believe next year will be better than this one. That belief changes how people shop. Bulk when you can, hunt weekly specials, trade brand loyalty for whatever's on the end cap. Keep that paycheck frame in your head because the next section opens the pantry door and prices tumble out, some so low you'll swear we're making them up. Your cart rattles past a pyramid of coffee tins and, bang, sticker shock in reverse. Milk first, a full gallon for about 83 cents. In today's money, think roughly the low teens. Next shelf. A dozen eggs for about 60 cents. Call it $8 or $9 modernized. Slide in a 1-pound loaf of white bread for around 12 cents. Barely more than pocket lint then. About $1 something now. Already you're seeing how a family could keep breakfast on autopilot without breaking the envelope. Now the sizzle. Meat in the 1950s is where Sunday dinners earned their legend. Bacon per pound often rings up in the 50s by the end of the decade, and you can find ground beef in the 40 to 50-cent range depending on the year and your butcher's smile. Whole chickens are classic stretchers. Roast once, reuse twice, and you're still only paying pocket change per pound. The butcher wraps cuts in butcher paper, scribbles the price in pencil, and leans in with a tip about stewing bones for soup. Because thrift isn't a trend, it's the operating system. Coffee? Close to $1 a pound at many chains as the decade rolls, call it 90-something cents in plenty of circulars. So the kitchen percolator becomes both an aroma and a budget line. Sugar shows up as a 5-pound sack for well under $1. Flour in family-size bags camps in the same ballpark. Butter can bounce. Dairy prices swing with seasons, but a pound still lives under that magic $1 line for much of the decade. Breakfast cereal boxes often live in the 20s cents, with cartoon mascots and free inside and prizes baiting the kids. You're not doing a haul so much as building a week. Pancakes on Saturday, meatloaf midweek, leftovers on Thursday, and if everyone's lucky, bacon repurposed into BLTs with that 12-cent bread. Produce is a different game, more seasonal, less global. Apples and oranges are affordable treats, but they take turns being cheap. Bananas, brought in by the boatload, can be a dime-ish a pound, sometimes less. Potatoes are the budget's best friend. 10-pound sacks for well under $1 mean mashed, fried, hashed, and stretched casseroles. Cabbage, onions, and carrots are the big three of thrift. Every stew, soup, and Sunday roast gets a flavor upgrade for pennies. And there's pride in it. Ask anyone who grew up then and they'll tell you about the smell of oranges at Christmas and the way a paper bag of apples could perfume an entire kitchen. Canned goods are the era's convenience aisle. Tomatoes, peas, corn, 10s to low teens, cents a can, help you ride out winter when fresh produce is dear. Soup runs about a dime or so in big national brands. You toss a few into the cart because, just in case, is a 1950s motto. Tuna, peanut butter, and jam, the school lunch trinity, stack up cheap and steady. Condensed milk for pies and puddings, evaporated milk for casseroles, baking soda and powder for the eternal parade of cakes and cookies. And yes, the cookbook clipped from a magazine that promises you can feed 6 on almost nothing if you master the casserole. Let's tally a sample big shop for a family of 4 in the middle of the decade. A gallon of milk, approximately 83 cents. A dozen eggs, approximately 60 cents. 2 loaves of bread, approximately 24 cents. A pound of bacon, approximately 55 cents. 2 pounds of ground beef, approximately 0.90 to $1. A whole chicken, approximately 0.70 to $1. Coffee, 1 pound, 90. Sugar, 5 pounds, 50. Flour, 5 pounds, 50. Butter, 1 pound, approximately 70 to 80 cents. A 10-pound bag of potatoes, 40-60. A handful of canned vegetables and soup, $1 total, fruit, 50, 80, and a couple of cereal boxes, approximately 40 to 60 cents. Your subtotal? Only a few dollars in change, often well under 10. Translate by a rough times 13 multiplier to today, and you're basically looking at a cart that feels like 40 to maybe $100, depending on meat choices and where you live. Not free, not fantasy. Just a world where under $1 happens dozens of times on a single receipt. 2 things keep that total tame. First, portioning and planning. Families cook once, eat twice. Leftovers aren't shame, they're strategy. Meat stretches with breadcrumbs, oats, or rice. Soups turn scraps into something cozy. Sunday's chicken becomes Monday's sandwiches, and Tuesday's noodle bake. Second, the new self-service supermarket architecture quietly lowers prices. Bigger stores, faster turnover, fewer clerks, and more competition between national brands. You push the cart, you pick from the shelf, you bag, or the clerk bags, and those tiny labor savings add up to tiny price tags. Now, not every tag is a miracle. Cheese can feel pricier. Specialty items are rare and carry a premium. And when weather hits crops or transport snarls, you see it immediately in the produce aisle. There's also regional spread. A city with high rents and union wages might post slightly higher tags than a small town with a lower cost base. But across the board, the staples basket stays gentle enough that a carefully run kitchen can feed a family and still leave a little room for a Saturday matinee or a new 45 RPM single. Here's your teaser. The craziest bargains might not be in the grocery store at all. Out on the highway, a tiny stand is selling hot, fresh burgers for 15 cents. And that changes everything about weeknight dinners. And in a freezer case that just rolled into the store, a 98-cent tray dinner is about to redefine "I didn't have time to cook." Buckle up, because the next aisle is the drive-through window. Headlights wash over a chrome diner, the neon open sign buzzing like a bee, and a grill man flips patties in a rhythm that sounds like a drum solo. Slide onto a red vinyl stool and check the board. Burger and fries for pocket change, a steaming cup of coffee for a dime-ish, a thick milkshake that barely clears a quarter. Blue plate specials, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, a roll, arrive hot, fast, and cheap enough to make "let's not cook tonight" a reasonable sentence. But out on the highway, the real revolution is happening. A tiny stand with a smiling mascot is selling 15-cent hamburgers, 10-cent fries, and a 10-cent soda. No waitresses, no plates to wash, just a paper bag that smells like heaven. The kitchen looks like an assembly line. Griddles set to one temperature, buns toasted the same way every time, pickles placed with the precision of a clockmaker. Families pull up, order 3 bags for the price of a diner meal, and eat in the car while the radio plays doo-wop. When a weeknight is tight, that is dinner. Fast, predictable, and so cheap it feels like the math is broken. Meanwhile, back in the grocery freezer, another disruptor hits the table. The TV dinner. 98 cents buys a tidy aluminum tray. Turkey, gravy, potatoes, vegetables, ready after a half hour in the oven. It's not a feast, but it's a miracle for a parent walking through the door at 6 with hungry kids and no time. Line up 4 trays, slide them in, and you've just traded chopping and scrubbing for a sitcom and a quiet living room. The freezer aisle becomes a pressure valve. When the calendar gets crowded, you buy back time for under $1. Put it together and you see the shift. Diners for comfort, drive-ins for speed, fast food for rock-bottom prices, and the freezer case for nights when life outruns the clock. And the ripple effect? Grocery lists change, kitchens rearrange, and families begin to expect dinner to be easy. Next up, the place that made all of it possible. Parking lot palaces of food called supermarkets, where the real price war was won. The doors whoosh open and bam, light, color, and choice. Pyramids of oranges, a wall of canned soup in perfect rows, and a river of shoppers pushing gleaming wire carts. This is not your grandpa's corner grocer where a clerk fetched every item. In the 1950s, self-service wins. You roam the aisles, compare labels, and stack your own cart. That tiny job you do, grabbing items yourself, shaves store labor, and those savings trickle into those tiny price tags. Supermarkets are built like road trip hubs. Big parking lots, easy in and out, one stop for meat, produce, dairy, dry goods, even a modest bakery counter. Price guns, thunk, 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 ink numbers right on each can. Cashiers memorize price clusters, slide items across a metal counter, and ring totals on a chrome cash register with a bell that dings like victory. Brand wars explode here. National names fight for end caps. Store brands quietly undercut them by a few cents. Flyers trumpet loss leaders. Milk, bread, coffee. So cheap they drag you in. And once you're inside, the cart just keeps rolling. Trading stamps sweeten loyalty. Fill a book with sticky green squares and trade it for a toaster or a set of glasses that every aunt seemed to own. Design nudges behavior. Staples like milk and bread hide in the back, forcing a victory lap past every temptation. Kids' cereals sit at kid eye level. Checkout lanes stack magazines and candy like a final gauntlet. And yet, amid the orchestration, shoppers feel powerful. Comparison is instant. Deals are obvious, and the week's meals assemble right in the cart. The supermarket becomes a stage where middle-class dreams, fridges full, cupboards neat, dinners planned, look affordable. Next, we zoom back out. Groceries don't live in a vacuum. Gas, rent, a movie night. Those quiet line items either free up grocery money or squeeze it. Let's frame the rest of the 1950s wallet. Spin the wallet, and you see why 12-cent bread feels like a gift. The car gulps cheap gas by today's standards, but cars still want tires, tune-ups, and insurance. Rent or the mortgage takes its cut first. No arguing with the landlord or the bank. Utilities nibble every month. Heat in winter, electricity for that proud new refrigerator and a stove that behaves, and maybe a black Bakelite telephone hanging on the kitchen wall. Entertainment is nickel and dime, literally. A matinee, popcorn, a jukebox tune at the diner. Clothes are repaired before they're replaced. Mom darns socks, dad polishes shoes, and kids grow into coats with sleeves folded once, then twice. Big appliances are planned purchases, not impulses. If you want a washer or a TV, you save, or you put it on layaway and count the weeks. All of this funnels pressure onto the food budget. A steady job covers staples, but a slow month means careful lists and creative cooking. That's why sales matter. That's why coffee in a 1-pound tin feels like both a treat and a necessity. It's also why the weekly grocery run is part math, part ritual, clipping a few coupons, checking the circular, and building a meal plan that stretches. Keep that frame in view as we answer the big how behind the low numbers. It wasn't magic, it was machinery, literal and economic, humming behind the shelves. Start with the fields. Post-war farms scale up. Tractors replace teams, harvesters chew through acres, and new fertilizers push yields higher. More food per worker means lower unit costs before a carton or can even meets a shelf. On top of that, cold chain logistics improve. Refrigerated rail cars and trucks keep milk, meat, and produce moving farther and faster, shrinking spoilage and smoothing prices. Then there's the factory side. Canneries, dairies, and bakeries run like clockwork. Long production lines, standardized recipes, packaging that stacks tight on a truck and sells itself on a shelf. Supermarkets tie it all together. Fewer clerks per dollar of sales, bigger orders from suppliers, aggressive price competition in booming suburbs, and a shopping model that quietly shifts tiny tasks to customers. Policy matters too. The federal government subsidizes certain crops and stabilizes markets. Unions win wage gains that expand the middle class, which increases volume. More shoppers, bigger carts, which, again, lowers per-unit costs. Highways knit regions together, so a bumper crop here can fill a gap there without a huge price spike. But not all tags drop. Specialty imports, off-season produce, and artisan items stay pricey because scale and season still rule. Dairy and meat can swing with weather, feed, and local conditions. Freshness has a premium. That perfect out-of-season tomato costs more precisely because the system is bending to deliver it. So yes, those jaw-dropping numbers are real, but they're not luck. They're the output of a giant whirring system built to make food abundant and predictable for millions of families. In a moment, we'll put a magnifying glass on geography, because a family's receipt in a farm town is not the same as a family's receipt in a busy port city. Picture two carts, same list. In a dairy state, milk and butter glide cheaper. In a coastal city, fish and fresh fruit might look friendlier. Big union towns can post slightly higher shelf prices. Wages, rents, and delivery costs ripple through the sticker. Small towns sometimes win on staples but lose on variety. Cities reverse it with dazzling choice and premiums attached. Weather redraws maps overnight. A frost in citrus country tightens orange supplies. A dock strike reroutes bananas. A bumper potato harvest drops prices across 3 states. Even within one city, neighborhoods differ. A corner store near downtown trades convenience for a few extra cents per can, while a sprawling suburban market undercuts with volume and parking. Culturally, shopping habits shift lines too. Ethnic groceries stock cuts of meat and produce others don't, pricing them sharply for the community that knows how to cook them. Farm stands sell what's ripe today, cheap and glorious, until the season ends and the price climbs as the miles stack up. The upshot, 1950s prices were low on average, but never uniform. The miracle wasn't one magic number, it was the system's ability to keep most numbers small most of the time. Roll the tape forward. Today's cart is global: berries in January, shrimp from far-off waters, spices that once lived only in cookbooks. Convenience leaps: bagged salads, par-baked breads, ready sauces, heat and eat meals in every case. Barcodes, scanners, and loyalty cards speed checkouts and rewire pricing into a science experiment. Dynamic discounts, personalized coupons, and shrinkflation where packages slim down while prices hold. The kitchen evolves too. Microwaves, non-stick pans, slow cookers, and air fryers change what cooking even means. Fewer families eat the same meal at the same time. More meals are solo, staggered, or on the go. Eating out explodes from occasional treat to weekly or daily habit. Fast food, fast casual, delivery apps, each adding a new drain or a new relief valve to the budget. As incomes grew over decades, the share of paychecks spent on basic food at home generally drifted down, even as people bought more variety and more convenience. But new pressures appear. Housing, childcare, healthcare, and student debt squeeze the very budget line that food once shared with rent and gas. Many shoppers chase deals with apps instead of scissors, but the goal is the same as in 1955. Stretch the envelope, feed the family, and maybe save room for a small treat. In a world of endless choice, the 1950s still whisper a lesson. Plan, cook, and use the system to your advantage. Next up, one final receipt: what we learned, what still applies, and the price tag punchlines you can drop at your next dinner party. Open your imaginary 1950s receipt and read it line by line. Milk under $1, eggs around 60 cents. Bread for 12, a week's worth of dinners conjured from a cart that rarely crossed $10. It wasn't fantasy, it was a finely tuned engine. Bigger farms, faster factories, smarter stores, built to make ordinary abundance possible. We toured the aisles, ate the 15-cent burger, and peeked inside the freezer where a 98-cent tray dinner promised a night off. We saw how the paycheck framed every choice, how supermarkets turned shopping into strategy, and why geography and seasons still had the final word. And we traced the long arc to now: global foods, data-driven prices, and a kitchen that's as much scheduling as sautéing. Here's the takeaway you can use tonight. Plan 2 meals from one protein, keep a base pantry of cheap staples, and let the store's layout work for you, not the other way around. The technology changed, but the math didn't. Smart choices beat sticker shock. If that trip through time made your jaw drop, tap like, hit subscribe, and share this with the friend who swears groceries have always been expensive. Next episode, we're unpacking the wildest catalog buys of the era and the one mail-order gadget that actually lived up to the hype.